Okay.
There we go. It started. Okay.
All right. Ellie, what I think we'll do is we'll make a start and hope that people will sort of join us as we go along.
Lovely. Yeah. I've just got
Okay.
one more joining now. So yeah, go
Oh,
for it.
okay.
There we go.
Oh, hi, Mark. Good to see you.
Right, mute.
How are things, Mark?
Not too bad, thank you. Yeah, I'm
Great.
looking forward to interested in this. Yeah, how are you?
Great. Yeah, good, thanks. I'm glad you could make it.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm here.
Okay, I think what we'll do is we'll make a start and we'll, I'm hoping a few more people will join us along the way, but a big warm welcome to everybody. This is the first presentation in our seminar series for this academic year, and I mean, we normally would have done held one earlier on in the semester, but you know, staff, students, and external speakers have all been exceptionally busy with our move to blended learning and also adapting to that new normal of university life under COVID and all the challenges that have come with that. I am particularly thrilled to welcome you today because this is also the first seminar series hosted jointly with our relatively newly formed School of Education and Humanities, which I think is one of the only schools of education and humanities probably in the country. There aren't many, but it's also being held in collaboration with the university's Refugee Support Society. So I thought I'd let you know about that. We see this series as providing an opportunity to create a vibrant and intellectually stimulating and academic and creative space in which to explore some of the most important and pressing issues of our time. And so as such, we're hoping the series is going to be of interest, not just to staff and students within the school, but across the university and further afield. So I'd like to thank you all for coming along. So from February 2021, the seminar series will be held wherever possible on the first Wednesday of every month. And then as soon as possible, we'll return to face-to-face meetings, but we'll still continue to provide the possibility of people joining virtually when this does happen. Ellie will go on to tell you, but the meeting is going to be split into two halves. So in the first part, our invited speakers are going to give a 30-minute presentation, followed by some very short comments and questions. And then we're going to take a 10-minute break, rest break. And then those of you that are able to join us for the second part, we're going to get the audience, open it up to the audience for questions to our speakers. And hopefully that will open up some interesting discussion and debate for a further sort of 30 or 40 minutes. So I'm going to hand you over to hopefully Paula McIlerney, but also to Ellie MacDonald, who's also the president of the Refugee Support Society, and with whom both have been involved in the organisation of this series, and they can give you more details about the two sections. But first, I'd like to introduce our speakers and say a few words about them. So Óscar Prieto-Flores is an associate professor at the University of Girona. He obtained his PhD in sociology from the University of Barcelona in 2007. And he's been a visiting scholar in 2006 at the Centre for Migration and Development at Princeton University, then in 2012 at the Centre for Comparative Studies in Race and Ethnicity at Stanford University, and in 2017 at the Centre for Evidence-Based Mentoring at UMass in Boston. So Óscar is the principal investigator of the Resettlement research project, which is entitled Applying Mentoring, Social and Technological Innovations for the Inclusion of Immigrant and Refugee Populations. And then I'll introduce you to Xavier Alarcón, who finished his bachelor's degree studies in social work in 2016, after which he studied for a master's degree in youth and society, which involved several Catalan universities with expertise in youth and policies in youth research. And he's currently a PhD student at the University of Girona, working on the research project Applying Mentoring alongside Óscar. And his research focuses on the transition to adulthood of unaccompanied youths in the absence of presence of formal mentoring relationships in that particular life stage, and on the impact of social support provided by adult mentors. And the title of their talk today is Transnational Family Ties and Networks of Support for Unaccompanied Immigrant Youths in Spain, the Role of Youth Mentoring in Barcelona. So I'll briefly hand over to Ellie now, who can tell you about the two sections.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Hi everyone, really nice to see you all. Thank you for coming. So what we plan to do, I'll keep this quite brief, is because of Zoom and contracts, etc., the session will only run for 45 minutes. So we're going to finish this section at 22, if that's okay. And what I propose is that Óscar and Xavier just kind of give us their talk for now. And then I'm not sure how long you want to take on that. And then we can sort of pause, take a breather, and then come back for any sort of discussion following that. Is that all right for everybody? The second half of the session will be recorded as well, so nothing will be missed. And what I'll do is I'll put the details for the second meeting in the chat function on Zoom, so you'll have all of the details straight away. And I'll pop my email in there as well in case there's any sort of technical difficulties for anybody. Is that all right?
Great, thanks, Ellie.
Good, no worries. Or we've got another participant, so by all means, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Over to you, Óscar.
Thank you very much, Alex and Eleanor, and all of you for being here and for providing us the opportunity to present our work. This is a part of a research. We are going to present qualitative findings of a broader research project that intends to assess 3 different mentoring programs with different targeted populations. All of them are migrants or refugee populations. And what we are going to do is first I'm going to introduce you the framework in which this research was carried out. And then Xavier will present the outcomes of the qualitative findings we have explored, specifically with unaccompanied immigrant youth. So next slide, Xavi. So our context, not only in Spain, but we can say worldwide, is based on political instability that have caused a migration of thousands and millions of people around the world. But from 2015 on, the hegemonic image of the refugee, of the asylum seeker, has been about the Syrian migrant or refugee, which is normal because the media has paid attention, especially on the Syrian conflict, but also, besides that, we have other kinds of refugees and asylum seekers all over the world, and especially in the case of Spain, we not only have Syrians coming and seeking for asylum here in Spain, but also we have people from African countries, Al-Maghreb, and especially Latin American countries escaping from political instability and violence. So in the last year, we have seen that the migration flux, especially the pre-COVID period, the migration flux coming to Spain are not only economic migration, but especially they are political migration or based in other kinds of motivations rather than economic. Next slide. So especially from in 2017 in Catalonia, but also in other parts of Spain, we found a lot of demonstrations in the streets claiming for the Spanish government to bring refugees from Syrians. As you know, the European Union was not redistributing and refugee populations across the states, and especially the Spanish state was not opening welcoming the refugee population that were escaping from Syria. But in the streets, we had a lot of demonstrations, especially the biggest demonstration in Europe was in Barcelona in February 2017, saying, "Stop excuses, bring the refugees here, we want to welcome." And I explain this case because it's very interesting, because just in that moment, the government of Catalonia, one of the politicians in the government, announced 2 days after a mentoring program from the government. So the Catalan government, as you know, is not a state, no, and so there is a lack of resources to provide welcome structures to migrant and refugee populations. So one of the ideas from the government in that moment was, let's find the ways in order to welcome refugees and migrants in our context without a lot of money, because we don't have this kind of state structures. So one possibility was to create a mentoring program, to come with a lot of people, no, volunteers, no, in order to create the space and the informal support to migrants and refugees in the localities where these refugees and migrants were redistributed by state policies. So next slide. So from 2015 on, the numbers of mentoring programs, especially targeting immigrant and refugee populations, and the case I presented before was just one case, but there are many other cases. It means that there is a lot of an increase and rise of mentoring programs in Europe and in Spain especially in the last 5 years. So one of the driving elements, no, in order to emerge, these mentoring programs to emerge, was the arrival of migrants and refugees in many European contexts. Germany, for example, was one of the countries with the largest mentoring programs targeting immigrant and refugee populations, especially in 2016 and 17. They had hundreds of new programs just in one year. Next slide, please. So, and there is a difference, very interesting difference between mentoring programs in Europe and United States. While the mentoring programs in the United States that we found are basically of youth of color, in Europe, what we are seeing is that there is an increase of mentoring programs targeting migrants and refugees, but also older youth, no? And that's very interesting and a different approach from the United States approach. Next slide. So one of the questions that we had initially in our research was, what are the effects of these mentoring programs? Are they reaching the goals? Are they being effective in generating a process of inclusion of newcomers, no, and their settlement to the new context? And if so, what kind of effect sizes, or what kind of qualitative outcomes could we find? No? So we carried out a mixed method research in order to explore these, because what we have seen in previous research is that not all mentoring programs have positive effects, no? And there is this meta-analysis carried out in the United States talking about that there is some mentoring programs, youth mentoring programs specifically, that even have negative effects on mentees. So to explore, no, the effects, and to explore how these mentoring programs are organized, structured, and delivered, are very relevant and have a lot of political and social implications. Next slide. The research carried out in Europe is recent. We don't have many evidence for the moment. We are having more and more evidence on that, but the bunch, we can say, of research carried out is here in our context is recent. But we have some evidence on the main findings of mentoring programs in our context, in European context, like improving communication skills, self-esteem, socio-emotional assistance and guidance of mentees, for example, improving pro-sociality, or especially emotional well-being. No? We can see as well belonging, which is very relevant, especially in the first stages of being settled in a place, no? Communicative and linguistic skills, that's also relevant, and as well as others, no? Because one of the characteristics of mentoring programs in Europe, and this is a difference between here and United States, for example, is that here the approach of mentoring programs are on dual benefits, not only on the benefits of the mentee, which is of course the main approach, and that's where we should focus, but also on the mentors, how mentors can develop intercultural competence, how they can also develop competences and knowledges that are of worth for them as well. Next slide. Next one, please. So what we did was to explore, analyze 3 different types of mentoring projects with 3 types of populations. On one side, we have adolescents, youth, that we are going especially to talk today about youth and the qualitative findings of youth, and as well to adult population, because that program, this logo that you see here of Generalitat de Catalunya, is from the Catalan government. So this is, we also assess that program, that mentoring program that started in 2017 here in Catalonia. So please, Xavi, you can go to next. Just next one, please. Here, okay, that's okay. Thanks. So, as being focused in an unaccompanied youth. So what we carried out was to mix methods, inquiry, and part of that mixed method inquiry was to explore the effect sizes in some psychological well-being of this youth. So we took from one side mentored youth and also non-mentoring youth with the same situation. So we could compare both groups. So they are youth that came in 2017, as Xavier will present to you. So they recently arrived to the Catalan context, to Barcelona Metropolitan Area. And they were under the minor protection system while they were minors, under 18 years old. Also, but when they became 18, they started a process of transitions with a lot of vulnerability. They found in a very risky situation, no? And some of them were provided by a mentor. And being with that mentor and this mentoring program, we could observe that they improved, especially in several abilities. Xavier will explain you later on the qualitative findings and other questions you have. No? But for example, we found big effect sizes on resilience, on youth hope as well, and as well, and especially in educational outcomes and orientation. There were 3 of the biggest findings we found in the quantitative findings in comparison with non-mentored youth with the same characteristics. But the most interesting thing of these numbers, or this inquiry, is the qualitative side. What these youth are talking about, how they experience these situations of transitions to adulthood. How do they come of age? It's a very stressful moment in their lives, because some of them can be undocumented, because for being documented, once you have 18 years old, you need to get a job at least for 1 year. So to get a contract, to get being hired 1 year is very difficult to find here in our context. So I give the floor to Xavier, and he will explain you the qualitative findings of the research.
Okay, thank you, Óscar. As Óscar explained, these unaccompanied youth that have been participating in this research are in a process of transition to adulthood, and in this context appears the mentoring program called Reference, initiated by Punt de Referència Association in 1998 in Barcelona. And the main goal of this program is to support youth without family networks of support that were under the tutelage of the Catalan administration. So it is not a specified program for unaccompanied minors transitioning to adulthood, but in fact, almost all participants are former unaccompanied minors that live in Barcelona Metropolitan Area in shelter flats. The aims of this study were to observe how unaccompanied youth experience and make sense of these changes in their family and social support networks during their coming of age, and to identify how participation in a mentoring program conditions the availability of support networks, complementing the social support received by family members and care professionals. Before talking about this research, I wanted to talk a little bit about some academic literature that we used for understanding their situation. Concretely, we wanted to explore what it is known about the family support abroad and about the availability of networks of support. And well, first of all, the literature explains that contact with family members abroad has some impact on reduced depression symptoms caused by discrimination and stressful events. Oh, sorry. So it is very important for them to maintain these family ties for their emotional and psychological well-being. Furthermore, in the case of refugee youth, it has been demonstrated that the family prevails as the most relevant source of social support, even above the perceived support from friends and significant adults in the new country. And that's interesting, because sometimes the academic literature is more focused on the networks of support that unaccompanied immigrant youth construct in the new context. And this shows a more holistic image about the networks of support that they maintain during their resettlement. Also, it has been highlighted the importance of that unaccompanied youth, that unaccompanied youth establish new close social relationships that allow them to create a sense of home in the new country. Because this can help to reduce the isolation feelings and be useful for fulfill their social and emotional needs. Someone could think that there are social workers or care professionals that can establish close relationships with them. But it has been demonstrated that social workers are often seen as representative of a more formal and instrumentalized world. Or in other words, but in other words, as people that just can help on concrete problems, something that could be solved, not as someone that can be really involved on their emotional problems. while mentors are seen as a part of a more informal world where they can take time to get to know their mentees in depth, not just being involved in specific problems. Our findings, have been analyzed thanks to the definition of different types of support that Cutrone used on his research about the family support, and also by Dolan and Brady on their work with the forms of social support in youth mentoring relationships. And we used these 4 categories: emotional support, as defined as the expression of empathy, caring, and concern; esteem support, the motivating messages that allow you to feel that someone believes in your ability to overcome obstacles; concrete support or tangible support related to the provision of practical assistance acts; and advice support or informational support, when someone provides useful information or recommendations to a person. This qualitative fieldwork was realized during 2019. Firstly, we construct a focus group with 4 unaccompanied youth that helps us on construct the interview guidelines, and we did 30 interviews, 10 with the youth from the control group, the non-mentored youth, also with 10 youth from the mentored group, and 10 with formal mentors that we didn't take into account in these findings about the family support and the availability of network support, because we have enough information with youth interviews. And these are some characteristics of youth. As you can see, they are between 18 and 23 years old. Most of them are from Morocco. They arrived with small boats or hidden in a truck or a bus to Spain. Most of them, they explain that they arrive alone or with some friends from their country of origin. They are living in shelter flats in Barcelona, and they mostly came to Spain between 2017 and 2018. And well, I am going to share with you some extracts from the interviews for talk about findings. Firstly, I have to say that the family ties of the unaccompanied youth who participated in the study were maintained during and after the coming of age. Mainly different examples of emotional esteem support related to fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters were found. They are in touch daily or at least weekly through internet-based communications, mostly by instant messaging. And this is a little extract of Mamadou's interview, one youth from Senegal that was not participating in the mentoring program. And he explains this when we ask him about their family relationships. Well, with my family, most of the time, I talk with my mother or my father, my brothers or my uncles too. Now we work a lot through internet, WhatsApp, because people, it depends on the confidence you have to talk about your things. I talk a lot with my mother about my secrets. I talk with my mother about everything that happens. She also understands me and tells me that it is normal. So as you can see, the trust that sustains these family ties is essential for them, and certain aspects of their lives are only shared with relatives with whom they maintain a very close relationship. Okay. All these messages from parents are common in almost all interviews. Here we have another example. In this one, Aliou, besides explaining that he receives messages of calm from his parents, also explains that he receives messages motivating more positive relationships with other adults. Aliou said, my mother always gives me advice. She tells me to be calm and to not do bad things to people. She tells me that people who are next to me, that I always must to listen to them, that I must work together with them. For example, where I live now, she tells me, if they give you advice or have told you something, don't say no, you have to be positive. Aliou lives in a shelter flat where there are youth workers giving assistance. So this is interesting because it can promote a more functional relationship with the staff of the flat, and at the same time promote a positive attitude towards his future. However, there is an absence of information exchange with family members that has been identified, which is promoted for two main reasons. First, because their parents cannot understand the context in which they are involved, something that Ahmed explained very well in the following example. What does papers mean? Not be authorized to work. So many things that they will not understand. When I tell them I don't have a job and I do have papers, but I don't have a job, they don't understand it. They say it is a lie. They say you are there, you don't want to work. Why do you have papers? If you don't have papers, tell us. So
I'm really sorry to interrupt. The Zoom is going to close in just over a minute.
Okay,
so
sorry.
No problem at all. It's just a technical thing. I don't know if you have a natural breaking point now. Sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
No, thanks, Ellie. Ellie has put up the code for everybody to get back into the next session.
Yes.
Are you all able to access that code?
Okay.
We have
perfect.
It. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think as we will cut out in a minute. I think if everybody can take that code, and then shall we give everybody 5 minutes?
Okay, perfect.
We'll just have a 5-minute break, and then we'll rejoin. Sorry to cut you short.
Don't worry, Alex. It's okay.
See you in a minute.
Yes, see you.
Okay, see you in a minute. Thank you.
Okay, see you in a few minutes.